The Great Debaters Contest 2016 registration is now open. Teachers or school administrations should register on www.greatdebaterscontest.com/register.
Welcome to the home of intellectual debate, the Great Debaters Contest. I am your host, Mariam Bishar.
And I am Austin Yombok. Today we have Kyongwani boys versus Kangundo High. Their motion is, foreign media has negatively stereotyped Africa. Who will be the victor, Mariam?
We'll find out in just a moment. First proposer, you have 3 minutes.
The Oxford Students' Dictionary describes a stereotype as a fixed idea about a particular type of person or a thing that is not often true. Okay, so the media here is described as means or institutions for publishing and broadcasting. My name is Ruben Kiambuthi, and I propose that foreign media has negatively stereotyped Africa. Please, hear my case. CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times, the Washington Post. These are just but a few of globally accepted media outlets. Combined, they reached almost hundreds of millions of viewers, listeners, globally, online, on paper, on screen. Yet, to all these people, how do these media outlets deliver the information? How do these media outlets pass this information to all these people? We can all remember a time before President Obama's visit to Kenya, when CNN arrogantly termed Kenya as a hotbed of terror. Yet, they also went along and termed his visit to Kenya as his most dangerous yet. Remember, by this time, he had already visited Afghanistan. When the Westgate Mall was attacked, international media blamed Kenyan security forces and the government due to security lapses. Yet, during the recent attacks on Paris in France, international media, namely CNN, went on to praise the city of Paris for its resilient actions in such hard times. Do we see the irony in situations where Africa is portrayed by these media outlets, international media outlets, as a place where bad things happen? Can we see that these people are trying to show to the general public and to the world that Africa, the place that we are in right now, is a place plagued by poverty, plagued by terrorism, plagued by all types of disasters. Yet this information conveyed by all these media outlets reaches almost billions or hundreds of millions of people around the world. Ruben Kiambuthi, Kyongwani boys.
Opposition, you have 3 minutes to make your opening statements.
Media is a means and institution of publishing and broadcasting information. Like printing books and words is aired in air. Stereotypes like image or opinion. And after all, Africa is a continent in the globe. Kemel Vincent from the Great Kangundo High School ready to oppose the motion. Back in 2012, one of our Kenyan authors, Moragita, wrote the book Shifting Sand. Can you imagine what was in the book? The book described the Coast Province, the Mombasa County, as an hotbed of terrorism. Now, how do you expect the foreign media to react with this? When Obama happened to visit Kenya, a country in African continent, the CNN echoed the words of Moragita to try and describe Kenya as an hotbed of terrorism. That was an African author who described a book already telling people Africa is an hotbed of terrorism. So the Africans, they have negatively stereotyped the Africa. Let me take you back. Watson Butler wrote the book, Second Coming. This book was dealing with Nigeria. Nigeria, they were dealing with the inhumanity on the people of Nigeria during the colonial period. Now, when our lovely late Chinua Achebe was trying to respond to this book, instead of confronting Western Butler, Chinua Achebe in his book tried to confirm truly, in Africa we have inhumanity. If you read the book before that, Okonkwo, There's a lot of people who are murdered in the book. An old man is taken to the forest where he dies. The twins who were born the first, they regarded as the bad omen. They are taken to the forest, they died there. The Africans already describe Africa as an inhumanity. They already describe themselves, the media of Africa, not the foreign. They are describing themselves. Look at this. The BBC debate on the globe, Africa image. They argue like this. Africa is a country which is entitled with hardships. So they tend to prevent, like they say, Africa, we always need aid. So it's like they are already impacting an image on the Western Europe, Western countries. They need aid. So they already protrude their image that Africa is full of negatives. Take around Brazil. Brazil, they have poor, they have aura, they have corruption, they have prostitution. But Brazil does not take in consideration with those. Africa, we have the same thing. Brazil take their agenda into their own hands. Africa, we have abdicated our responsibility to drive our own image. What I can tell you, African leaders, they are going against this. They are using this, apart from the foreign media, to try and use to give the negative picture of Africa. Come on my side. I think you must be confused. Thank you all.
We'll hear rebuttals beginning with the proposition. You have 3 minutes.
Is Africa a corrupt continent? Is Africa that dark continent as portrayed by the foreign media? Joe Munguti, Kyongwani boys. First and foremost, I would like to correct my friend here that authors do use fictions to attract the attention of their readers. So there is the difference between the works of authors and the newscasters. Let us take an example whereby every time Africa is being determined as a hotbed of terror, whereby, like, for example, Al-Shabaab is in an African country, Somalia. Somalia is in Africa. But then, somebody by the name Ali Hussein Gamaderi is believed to be the troop leader. But then, for real, is this name having an origin of Africa? No. So, are Africans responsible and financing these militia groups? No. Why? Because we're being told Al-Qaeda and Al-Shabaab are connected, while Al-Qaeda is not in Africa. Let us take a good example whereby news tell us that goods smuggled have been brought into Africa. More so, the goods which were brought to Kenya, like the Brazilian sugar. Where's Brazil? South America. Is Brazil in Africa? No. What about the Taiwan rice? Then, we're being portrayed as the bad continent when it's only the foreigners who come to our continent then portray us as bad while our hands are still clean. Like when in the case of poaching, our wild animals are being killed every now and then. But then, are we the Africans who are using those ivories? No, they are being exported. Let us take a good example, like the Westgate Mall attack, whereby the attackers were Samantha. Is Samantha an African? She wasn't. So, what I have to tell my friend here is that wherever you talk, you differentiate between the works of an author and the works of a newscaster. And that is the work of media, whereby they give information to us in form of news. Thank you.
Opposition, you have 3 minutes for your rebuttal.
Don't you see that we Africans are responsible for the negative stereotype that we face? I, Sila Neville, giving you the best, come before you, trying to convince our propagists to come on our side and help us continue saying that foreign media positively stereotyped Africa. Let us look at the case of Eddie Gathige. Eddie Gathige being an act of Twilight, the famous Twilight, if you're a famous of fantasy movies like I. So he takes this role of being a vampire, rescuing Bella, who's also a vampire from the wolves. So I can't see how the European or maybe the foreign media really negatively stereotypes us. So let us look into another case. Foreign media only replicates or echoes what we Africans do. Let me take the reference of the Standard newspaper, the article on 12th February of 2016, where it says, a Ugandan president seeks for another 5-year term after he rules Uganda for 30 years. So tell me, really, does the foreign media negatively stereotype us Africans? So let us look at another case. We find that Lupita Nyong'o, the actor of 12 Years as a Slave, she takes as a major actor of a slave and also goes on winning the Oscar awards. So tell me, does the foreign media really negatively stereotypes us? Let us look at another case also. The same on Eddie Gathige, the actor of Still the X-Men, where he saves a specific actor, a mutant, from being killed by Magneto. So tell me, the positions that they take in the movie roles, does the foreign media really negatively stereotypes us? Let me give another case of Nkurunziza of Burundi, where he still refuses to move out of power and give others a chance to rule Burundi. So let me say that if you propagandists do not support us in our opposition of the motion, then I bet the next thing in New York Times headlines will be African sluggard refuses to move from power. Thank you.
The Great Debaters Contest 2016 registration is now open. Teachers or school administrations should register on www.greatdebaterscontest.com/register. The Great Debaters Contest 2016 registration is now open. Teachers or school administrations should register on www.greatdebaterscontest.com/register.
The proposition have been asked what are the motives behind the negative stereotyping of Africa by foreign media, and the opposition have been asked how come when bad things happen in the Western world or in foreign countries, they are not painted in as bad a light as they are when the same things happen in Africa. We'll have them respond. Third proposer, you have 3 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Victor Mwema from Kyongwani Boys. I'm here by coming to answer the question, the causes of negative stereotyping of African continent. The basis of this negative stereotyping Africa is majorly based on racism. Since we have those Europeans, they consider us as so minute people, since they consider themselves having a more higher technology than we do. In addition to that, when we focus on terrorism, why do we have, for example, the instance my brother has talked about, the Westgate mall attack of the year 2013? Why is it that when a terror attack happens in an African country, it is highly focused and it is highly publicized in the whole world? Why is it that when there's something of terrorism in a Western country, we are not having any information, or if we do, we have very little? Why? Aren't the foreign media negatively stereotyping Africa? The other thing is about drug trafficking. There's a lot of drug trafficking which happens, especially the drugs are trafficked inside Africa from the Western countries. Now, for instance, the drugs that were caught at the port of Mombasa, we don't know where they came from. We don't know where they originated. Why is it that there's so much focus on the African countries, whereas we are not being told where they originated? Could be they originated from the same Western countries which are really focusing and which are really stereotyping Africa as a continent. Why? And to conclude, They are very, 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 for example, we have militia groups in Africa or in the Western countries which want to come and Islamize some countries. For example, Somalia and Nigeria. We are having the Al-Shabaab. They are ferrying in through Kismayu. It is illegal. Now they come and they ferry in through to Africa through Kismayu. Now they want to stereotype. Why is it that we are not having other countries, Western countries, being Islamized? And I close my proposition. Thank you.
Opposition, you have 3 minutes to respond to the audience.
On stage, Elijah Kamau, ready to oppose this motion that states foreign media has negatively stereotyped Africa. On to my first question that I think the person who asked it was a bit confused. The meaning of media. It is a means of institution for publishing and broadcasting information. And the meaning of stereotype. A stereotype is a conventional, formulaic, and simplified conception, image, or opinion. Excuse me. My fellow proposers have just asked me, why do things that happen in abroad, why are not they showcased in the medias? Okay, we have several media places, e.g. CNN, Al Jazeera, Deutsche Welle, Russian TV, and also some many other gazettes like the New York Times that publish these things. We have a country like Brazil that is faced with prostitution, poorness, drug abuse. We have countries like Colombia that are manufacturing these drugs. And you have also posted a question to me, asking me, why do these things, when they are brought to Africa, why are they not talked about? Okay, my question is, why do we then Africans allow these things in our lands? Why do we Africans allow these things in our land? My friend has just quoted that Edgar Thegi, who's a man from Isili, from Eastlands, that is Umoja. He's a man who has acted a movie that is written by a white person. Now, this white person has given Edgar Thegi, who's a man from Africa, the character of saving Bella. Bella is a poor young girl who's attacked by werewolves. And Edgar Thegi acts the role of a vampire. He uses his vampire powers to save Bella. 12 years a slave. That is Lupita Nyong'o, who won the Oscar Prize. Why did we win that prize if we say that foreign media have negatively stereotyped Africa? As Africans, we should cover up our messes before going and saying that the people from the foreign nations are stereotyping us negatively. My parting shot is that Africa is the only continent on earth that employs poachers as game rangers.
We'll hear final statements now. Proposition, you have a minute.
If you've watched Blacklist Season 3, Edgar Thegi is a criminal. We are looking at Africans. We're looking at how they are portrayed in such films. Okay, have you watched Blacklist Season 3? Please go watch it. Go watch how Africans are being stereotyped in such films. Okay, please answer, please. We are Africans. We are the ones being stereotyped. We are not looking on the advantages, the advantage of being put on a film, on a Hollywood film. We're looking at what are the values that you're put there to show. Okay. Why does a bad guy have to be an African? Why can't the bad guy be an American? Why can't the bad guy be a South American? Okay. Also, there's another issue about Hollywood. Hollywood's presentation on Africans. Okay, if you've seen Justin Bieber's Sorry video, there is no African female on it. Have you seen any black-skinned African female on it? Okay, we're talking about Africans being stereotyped by Europeans, by international media. Thank you.
Opposition, you have a minute as well.
It's only in Africa where we have poachers given the role of game rangers. It's only in Africa where we have dictators given the role of educating democracy. It's only in Africa where we have law enforcers going against the law. Before I started, I said this. A powerful tiger doesn't proclaim its tigritude. It pounces. If Africa was with the positive things, the world could not be looking at Africa. African leaders, they are the ones which are constituting, they are the basis of the foreign media. Moragita wrote the book, Shifting Sand. The CNN used the same thing to say that Africa was a hotbed of terrorism. Mohamed Ali used the documentary to present the Westgate. The same CNN used the same documentary to present how the Westgate Mall was attacked. The African leaders, bad leadership by the Africans, they are the ones which are constituting to this. So what I can tell you, Africa, we should first organize ourselves, good governance and good leadership. Thank you all, salute you all.
Foreign media has negatively stereotyped Africa. I was paying a lot of attention to this motion. I must say that I was disappointed. Disappointed in the sense that you have the content, but the delivery and the examples you use to explain yourselves across the two teams is lacking. And one of the things that I really want to emphasize is that this is a television show that people watch to get information, to be educated as well. And when you have grammatical errors, then you switch your audience off. I'm hearing statements for the very first time in my adult life, some including questions from the audience, speaked, instead of spoke, militia, instead of militia, drugs were caught. How do you catch drugs like this? I want to close my proposition. Is it a door? African nations are facing poorness. I mean, what kind of language is that? And I think what this means is that we need to work on our grammar. We need to work on the language that we're using to communicate, work on your tenses, work on, language. Because once the language is distorted, it doesn't matter what you're saying. Your audience automatically switches off. And they spend the bulk of their time as they are watching you, correcting you rather than paying attention to your submissions. What I got to hear in the few instances that there was some form of communication was that Kangundo was saying, look here, as Africans, we haven't played our role in branding ourselves. Isn't that what you were trying to say? Poor governance, we have poverty, we have disease, we have all these things, and we haven't done anything to correct them. So what do we expect the West to cover? Anyway, that's what they're going to cover. And I think that's what you were trying to say, even with the bumpy submission notwithstanding. Kyongwani, I think what you were trying to say is, yes, foreign media has negatively stereotyped Africa, and you were trying to point us towards some examples, although, again, this was done in a very not so good way. That your presentation was rather bumpy. And so it's one thing to have the content. It's another thing to ask yourself, how do I deliver it so that my presentation in itself does not act as noise for the audience who's listening, and as a result of that, they spend their time not paying attention to the content, but correcting us along the way as we move on. So going forward, this is something that the two teams need to work on very seriously, because if that is not well executed, then irrespective of how well you have mastered the content, the debate then doesn't, is not taken with the seriousness that it deserves. All the best.
Kyongwani boys and Kangundo boys have tied at 60%. Please give them a round of applause.
Bravo to both teams for a job well done. Thank you to the audience here and to the viewers back at home for taking the time to watch. I am your host, Mariam Bishar.
And I am Austin Nyombok. Catch you next time.
The Great Debaters Contest 2016 registration is now open. Teachers or school administrations should register on www.greatdebaterscontest.com/register.